Okay. So I promised to do this from start to finish, so I am going to be showing you everything. A question I get a lot is how do you do stripes without any bleed through? So I'm just going to give you a few tips that I use to get perfect striping. I'm using the frog tape. This is my favorite brand of tape because it's the best kind I've used. I've gone through a few different brands, and frog tape is the one that I like the most for decorative finishes. Reason being that it gives me the least bleed through. I like the clean, sharp lines, and they have different kinds of the tape. Oh, sorry. I forgot to turn off my speaker. So they have a few different types of tapes. There's like the green one, which is more for when you want to tape off certain areas to make sure you don't get tape on. Like when I'm painting a certain area and I don't want to get the edges, I'll tape that off. So the green kind is good for that. The yellow kind is really good for you can still hear the music? That's weird. You shouldn't be able to hear it. So this one is the yellow one, and this one is for delicate. So it doesn't peel off your paint because it's even though it's still sticky, it has sorry, I'm not blanking on words today, but the yellow one is for delicate paint jobs. So when I was doing the front of this, I should have used the yellow one, but because I did not have the correct size for my diamonds, I had to use the green one, which is why the paint kind of peeled, especially with the gold underneath. That was super slick. Even though I primed it, it still peeled it off. So if you're worried about your paint peeling off, use the yellow kind for taping when you're doing stripes, or if you're doing the diamonds or whatever sort of decorative pattern that you're trying to do. The yellow one is the best one. I already taped it on. I kind of eyeball my stripes. I go from like the middle, and then I'll just kind of space it out. I don't really do precise measuring, so I just kind of eyeball it, honestly. So one of the things you can do, well, you definitely have to make sure your edges are completely on. So I like to just lightly buff the edge to make sure that it's stuck on there. Okay. So I'll just burnish the edge of the tape just to make sure it's completely on. This is just a nail burnishing block that I like to use for many things like transfers and other stuff. So you just gotta make sure it's on completely on the edge. Like so, and that should help with the adhesion on the sides. So when you get bleed through, it's because it leaks through, right? So if you create a tiny bit of a barrier, that will stop it from bleeding through. So I'm just going to paint a little bit of the original color along the edges to block any bleed through. I used Fusion's, what is it called, French eggshell for the base. So I'm going to go ahead and paint it along the edge of the tape. Don't need to do too much, just a little bit along the edge to help it seal a little bit. I'm just going to dot some along my edges. So this just helps seal the edge a little bit more when you're doing the stripes. And you should do this especially if you're using other tapes, like the blue ones, the blue painter's tape. I'm going to go along the edge of the tape. I'm just going to make sure the bottom area is really where I get bleed through the most, just because the paint kind of collects there a bit more, so I try to get the bottom bit just make sure it's sealed to the very edge of it, right there. Especially when you have a curved surface like I'm doing. Get the top edge. Another way you can get zero bleed through is if you spray the paint. I think I have a video where I sprayed the Rust-Oleum's silver spray, and I taped it off, and then I made stripes that way. That looked pretty good, and they were it was super easy to do too. I've become a huge fan of spraying. Okay, so all I did was I just basically painted the edges of this and going to let it dry so that I can do the painting of the white without it blending in. So the bleed through, yeah. So hopefully you never get bleed through ever again, because it's a pain. Okay, so I'm just gonna use my heat gun and just get this drying a bit so I don't waste your time. Dry now. So I'm just going to make sure my brush is really dry too. With the Klingons, you store them in water, so it's it can get thinned out. The paint can get a bit thin at the beginning when you're using it. I'm painting this in the silk, raw silk color, which is like a bit of an off-white. So I'm just going to go ahead and just try to paint it in the middle mostly. Thinner layers. Try not to put it on too thick because it takes forever to dry, and also It's not good to do it too thick because the edging will be more raised too when you take off your tape. Try this off a bit more. Two should cover it mostly. The paint coverage is really good, so I don't need to use that many layers even though it's white. Get over the areas where it's a little bit not so covered. I want to really drag the paint around too, so I'm trying not to be too aggressive with my brush strokes. Alright, I think that's pretty good. It's hard to tell because when it's still damp, you don't really see the spotty areas until it's dry. Especially on the bottom of this. Alright, I think that looks pretty good. Not this area though. Heat gun is very useful to hurry up the drying process if you need to. Also, paint kind of reacts to extreme cold that I've noticed. I'm in Colorado, so it gets really cold, and sometimes the paint, like the metallic paints, will dry in this weird like a cloudy looking finish until I use my heat gun to go over it. It's very strange, but paints definitely react to the cold differently. Okay, I think that's good enough. I'm fine with it. Alright, so I guess here's the moment of truth. Okay, I lied. It did peel up a little bit, but whatever. That's fine. So when you peel off your paint when it's a bit wet too, it helps as well to make it easier to peel off without peeling some of the edging sometimes, where it's too thick. When it completely dries, it peels up a little bit on the edges, I've noticed. So it's good to do it when it's kind of damp. I mean, it's not like you're going to ruin it if you let it dry completely, by any means, but so I love seeing nice clean lines. I know, I'm weird. I really enjoy peeling off the tape and seeing the nice and clean edges. All right, so voila. That is how you get nice and clean edges with tape. Yeah, so just a brief demonstration. I just wanted to show you how you can do that since I get questions about it all the time. So that's just to review. Basically what I did is I used frog tape, the yellow kind. This is the delicate tape that's good for decorative patterns and finishes. And it comes in different widths too, so you know you can get different widths of it to get different sizes of your stripes. And all I did was I used Fusion's French eggshell. I went over the edges of the tape while it was still on, let it dry, and then you can start painting. When you seal the edges, it just helps to create that barrier so that your paint doesn't bleed through as much. If that makes sense. It just creates a little bit more of a seal. I also did burnish the edges of the paint, or the tape, sorry, as well before I did that. So you just want to make sure you seal the edges nice, and then that way you don't get any bleed through. So that's just basically the method behind it. Well, that's it. I'm going to go ahead and resin my marble top, and then I'll be done finally with this piece. So, and I'll show you the, I'm probably not going to demo the actual resin part unless you really want to see that. So just because I'll have to wear my mask and I won't be able to really talk, but you can see how I do it. If you really want to, let me know. But I'm going to be sealing my marble top today that I did yesterday. So this is what I did last night. So, alrighty, I will let you get back to whatever it was that you were doing, and I can't wait to get this finally staged and show you the final results.